Yo, welcome. I'm not Dracula. I'm trying to do, I don't know, I'm trying to do Mafia, Bronx, whatever, Brooklyn. I can't remember where the hell this takes place. I was gonna go, yo, welcome to the, to the review. I think that's good enough. Welcome, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. This time I'm coming at you. I don't imagine a lot of people will watch this review, but since I've seen it recently and have some specific thoughts about it, I thought I might as well stop by and just share them. We'll see how many views this video gets. I guess it's not all about views at the end of the day. I've seen it recently and I have thoughts, so let's talk about them. Coming your way to do a movie review, today I'm going to be regaling you with my thoughts, with my review of, I don't know how to pronounce it, is it Prizzi's? Something like that. Prizzi, I'll just say Prizzi's Honor. So basically, I've seen this artwork, this cover art, or I don't know what the original theatrical poster looks like, but if it's different from the poster, I'll show a picture of the cover art I'm talking about. I've seen this VHS, cover art in the video stores all the way back to the 80s. Like, I've seen this cover art for decades and decades. I mean, not so much in the last decades because there's no video stores, but I've been familiar with this cover art for decades, and I'd never seen this movie. And I'm a relatively, I wouldn't call myself a huge Jack Nicholson fan, but, I generally like, Jack Nicholson and everything he does. Cut to, it kind of ended when or while I was watching this movie. Yeah, I can't say I'm a big fan of, I came, Prizzi's Honor, or whatever the hell it's called. I'm all over the place. This came into my life because I was at Half Price Books, imagine that, and I did come across a DVD for a clearance DVD, and I'm like, God, I never, admittedly, just like so many us, I was going to say social media, physical media collectors, obviously, arguably, the further you get into your collecting years, the less you tend to find out in the wild, as it were, when you're out there looking at stuff and stuff. So, I do find probably less than I used to find maybe in the good old half-price books days, which is a little bit of a bummer, but at the same time, it's like, okay, because I've got so much crap anyway, and funds are limited and stuff. But I did come across this for DVD clearance at Half Price Books. This isn't a Half Price Books commercial as much as you might think so. And several days later or whatever, I watched it, and this should be said that this movie's like 2 hours long, and it's just like, oh my God, it's definitely 30 minutes, possibly 45 minutes longer. Well, for sure, 30 minutes longer than it needs to be. It's a premise of, I was really like taken aback. I hear people saying that for good things and bad things, so I don't know if that means a good thing or bad thing, or both, or however you use it for, or whatever, but that phrase, taken aback. But, not far into this, maybe 15, 20, 25 minutes, I was like, oh my God. And then since I got like, obsessive compulsive persuasion, I call it OCP, because I don't think you should really call it a disorder, because I think there's a lot of benefits to OCP. PCP, OCP. See, OCP is my rebranding of OCD. I call it obsessive compulsive persuasion. So OCP, not to be confused with PCP. I don't do PCP. Angel dust. Seen what this stuff does to kids? Ever seen what this stuff does to kids? Anyway, I'm all over the place. So what the hell was I even talking about OCP for? Anyway, I always obviously think of RoboCop when I say my acronym for my rebranded obsessive compulsive persuasion. I think that's a better term. Because disorder, you could call so many other things that are accepted in society disorders. Going to sports games, going to church, church going disorder, sport game going disorder, bar hopping going disorder, whatever. You could do all kinds of gambling disorder, whatever. But anyway, if I'm pro something, I guess I take the disorder away and put persuasion there instead. But anyway, what the hell am I? Oh, I'm reviewing Prizzi's Honors. So it's a really strange movie. Like the writing and directing comes across like it's like a college, maybe high school or college project. Like it seems very, like the production just seems like the overall movie just seems so inept to me. And it kind of started at the very beginning where there's like a marriage, And it's like, yeah, and admittedly, I like this piece of music, you know, the Ave Maria, and there's someone's, you know, there's this wedding, and someone's singing this Ave Maria. Okay, so I butchered it. Ave Maria. Like, you know, admittedly, I like that tune, so I wasn't so, you know, disappointed in this, but they kept doing this camera pullback, and this music's going, and it just seems like it lasted 2 or 3 or 4 times longer than it needed to, and we're doing this wedding, and oh my God, and it was kind of like you know, good thing I liked the tune, otherwise I would have been really frustrated with the way that was handled, and I kind of still am. It's like, as much as the tune's cool, it's like, oh my God. But anyway, to make a long story not as long, this movie, in my opinion, is very, very just handled in, it's just like an infantile way, and I was very surprised to learn that Jack Nicholson plays this kind of this mobster, you know, doofus, you know, hitman or whatever. I don't even know what the hell he is, you know. Admittedly, I'm not really good at getting all there is to get on a first viewing of a movie, but my argument for this movie is that there's not a lot to get. I mean, Jack Nicholson plays this doofy kind of guy, and kind of like with Marlon Brando and whatever they put in his cheeks for Godfather, like they stuff something up here, you know, in front of Jack Nicholson's front teeth to give him a different appearance, which is, you know, with the exception of the Joker, like I think the only time I've seen that, you know, Jack Nicholson taking a different appearance in a movie. And let's face it, he does like the Bronx or Brooklyn, you know, accent really well or whatever, and so much so like it doesn't even necessarily sound like Jack Nicholson's voice and things. And you know, it's like he does the accent and the doofy like mafia or whatever the hell kind of guy this guy is. The thing is, I don't even know what the hell this guy is, you know, the Jack Nicholson character. But anyway, at this wedding, he gets a load, you know, he glances around and he happens to see this, I can't remember the name of this actress. She was big in the 80s. She voiced Jessica Rabbit, you know, in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and did some, I want to say that she was in like numerous movies with Michael Douglas, and Romancing the Stone, and then later on, I think, is it the late 80s or early 90s, this movie that was pretty big at the time, which actually this movie kind of reminded me, I've seen this one a long time ago and probably like it a little more, War of the Roses. Like this almost seems like a precursor to that, and it's even got, you know, this woman, whatever the hell her name is, Romancing the Stone, Michael Douglas, and I can't picture her name right now, but the woman who's in this movie, you know, the female whatever love interest of Jack Nicholson. Anyway, he sees her at the wedding. He's just smitten. He's just, I love her, you know. And the movie's basically 2 hours of this story of Jack Nicholson and her coming together. And then the more you find out about her, the you know, we don't know if, you know, the more shady she kind of becomes, and there seems to be, and it's just like, oh my God. And they pull this, you know, this joke, which I think, you know, goes, you know, happens way too many times, where I think you're supposed to laugh every time, you know, because it takes place in like Brooklyn, whatever, you know, frickin' East Coast, between East Coast and California. So I should have counted how many times the plane goes, you know, shot a plane going this way, that way, this way, that way. And I think you're supposed to laugh every time, you know, like after the 6th or 7th time shot of the plane going one way or another, it's not funny anymore. Like, to me, it's like you kind of have maybe a rule or a guideline of maybe up to 3 times with a gag, you know, preferably twice, maybe thrice with a gag, and then call it good. But just like, you know, throughout the course of a 2-hour movie, they just, you know, going back and forth, and it's like every time they cut to the plane, go, you know, aiming either right or left, you think you're supposed to, ha ha ha, it's so funny, now he's going to New York, now he's going back to California. So it's like, it's just like, it kind of reminds me, like I say, of what would become War of, is it Kathleen Turner? That might be her name. War of the Roses would go on to be in the late 80s, early 90s, whatever. That's got like, is that Kathleen Turner, Michael Douglas, and Danny DeVito? I want to even say Danny DeVito might have directed War of the Roses. But I can just remember that movie, you know, my little kid memory of that movie being like a kind of a big movie at the time, you know. Like, I don't know if it was a star-studded attraction or whatever, but for the life of me, that's pretty much all I can even remember about this movie. One thing I will say was interesting about the movie is it does feature in a role that I've seen, you know, that I've never seen William Hickey in such a featured role. He basically plays, if I'm understanding correctly, the Don in this movie because it's like a mobster movie or whatever. You know, there's not a lot of mobster stuff or whatever, but I mean, if you've seen The Godfather, there's kind of stuff like that. But I'm pretty sure that's you know, frickin' Michael. What's this? I was gonna say Michael Lerner. William Hickey is not Andre Toulon in this movie, but like the Don, the head honcho of this mob or whatever that Jack Nicholson's a part of. So seeing him like in such a prominent part and seeing him several times throughout the course of the movie instead of just like Puppet Master, or I think pretty much all I've seen him is like Puppet Master, the Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, and like Christmas Vacation might be the only movies I can remember seeing him in. But you know, he's kind of just a little background player in those movies. And this movie is just like one of the main characters. So it was fun to see him, and he looks so weird because there's a shot of him asleep at the very beginning at the wedding, and he looks so weird with his eyes shut. But I'd say the funnest thing about this movie is just, you know, seeing like you know, William Hickey in this part, and he's always fun to, he's always such a character, you know. So it's always fun to see William Hickey. And what's crazy about this movie is normally, you know, I'm a, you know, kind of a Jack Nicholson fan, you know, not a huge one or ever, but it's like because of how doofy Jack Nicholson is and stuff, he just like, he becomes like not Jack Nicholson. And I guess that's a credit to his acting ability. And, you know, there's a part of me that's like, God damn, what a waste to cast Jack Nicholson in this part, because, you know, I guess a credit to Jack Nicholson, he does the part so well, like the Jack Nicholson fades away and you might as well just be watching any doof off the street, you know. So it's kind of like, in one aspect, it's like I can see it as an actor wanting to not be the same, you know, kind of character in all your movies and cool, suave Jack Nicholson or whatever, and want to do different things, and I guess, you know, more power to him, and that's obviously what he did in this situation. But I mean, it's just like, oh my God, I mean, I guess he figures maybe at this point he's done so many like Jack Nicholson parts that maybe he wanted to do something a little different, and like I say, he's got that right, more power to him. It was just like, I don't know, I guess I just, since I wasn't expecting that, I was just like, this is just really freaking weird. But anyway, it turns out to be something that, as I keep saying, very, very reminiscent of what War of the Roses would kind of go on to be, if I'm remembering that movie correctly, which I may not be. I haven't seen that in a bazillion years. I probably got that at Half Price Books DVD clearance, you know, a long time ago as well, but never having seen it until, you know, recently, sometime in the 21st century. But God, 2 hours of like, that one guy from that one guy who's like in every other movie way back in the day, and he's the guy in Independence Day who says, you know, start bringing them sons of bitches down, you know, I can't remember his name, but he's kind of I think he was in Scarface as well, like the Brian De Palma movie. This one guy, you know, it's always fun to see that guy too, although he might have not have been in the movie so much. But yeah, I mean, it was just like, not only was Jack Nicholson un-Jack Nicholson-ized, which I didn't really appreciate, but like I say, I do appreciate like the talent it must take to like transform from Jack Nicholson into just this oaf who could be anyone off the street. But it's kind of like, well, why? You know, it's like getting Arnold Schwarzenegger to play Danny DeVito character. Like, you know, it's like, why get an actor? But like I say, I mean, you know, call it Jack Nicholson and or whoever else wanting to switch up the image very briefly of what he's, you know, known for, and do something different, whatever. But I just found this movie to be just like infantile and incredibly difficult to get through. And most DVDs or Blu-rays that I blind buy, you know, for whatever, you know, clearance or not clearance, like there's usually something about them where I'll put them in the keep pile. You know, most stuff goes into the keep pile, and it's very rare that something will get placed in the get the hell rid of pile, because it's like, if it was that much work to watch it the first time, like I'm never going to want to watch it again, you know. So this is the get the hell rid of pile. You're currently in the get the hell rid of pile, and I'm just trying to think of stars. That'll probably be all I got to say about this movie. The end is what the end is. I'm not going to spoil it in case you want to see it or whatever. Who knows? This is probably on Tubi or something, or it's very possible it's on Tubi or somewhere to stream free if you want to waste 2 hours of your life. I don't think maybe we'll give it a half of a star out of 4 stars, because a star I think would be way too much for a movie that Oh, that's where my OCP came from. The you know, if it wasn't for my OCP, obsessive compulsive persuasion, I probably wouldn't have even finished this movie. I was trying to think, why the hell was I talking about OCP, PCP? Just kidding. But yeah, I'd say a half of a star out of 4 stars for, you know, I might be pronouncing it wrong, Prizzi's honor, and it's like the name of the family or whatever, the last name of the family. But oh my God, it was just, it's amazing to. It's just amazing to me that a movie like that, so many movies, and this one included, like this one, are manufactured, are produced that, you know, in my opinion, granted everyone's got different tastes or whatever, but oh my God, it's just so infantile, and you know, it's like, I guess it's supposed to be part comedy or all comedy or whatever the hell it is, and it's just like, it's, oh my God, talk about such a half-assed comedy. But I guess that'll pretty much do it for my review of whatever it's called, Prizzi's Honor. You know, after having decades of seeing this cover art, you know, well, not decades, but years after, you know, seeing this cover art in the theaters, made it look like a much more cooler movie than it actually is. And oh, there's a scene where I found this disturbing too. You know, they're doing this hit, or they're kidnapping this guy or whatever. And you know, both Kathleen Turner and Jack Nicholson, and like this woman, this innocent bystander, just appears, you know, comes out of the elevator and isn't supposed to be there, and witness, you know, and Kathleen Turner just shoots her in the head or something with like a gun with a silencer on it. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, you know, I mean, I found that kind of a little much for a comedy, you know, and it's just the tone of this movie. You know, I don't know if you've seen, you know, the review on this channel of Fargo. It's like the same problem with Fargo. It's like, are we supposed to laugh or be horrified or both or neither? Or movies like this, you know, this isn't, I wouldn't, you know, say, you know, I'm not a big Fargo fan, so I was going to say it's not as good as Fargo. Well, I don't really like Fargo, but I mean, I'd probably rather, well, I've seen Fargo more than one time, so needless to say, I like Fargo more than this movie. But yeah, I was just like, you know, because the movie was kind of light, you know, until then, and all of a sudden they're pulling this kidnapping or whatever, and the woman comes out of the elevator and pew, right in the fucking head, and you're just like, what the hell movie is this? You know, you got a doofy Jack Nicholson, Kathleen Turner, assassin, just blowing people away, innocent people, and oh, she needed to go, and just so casual. It's just like, yeah, anyway, I'm still talking about this movie. I don't know why. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. If you watched the whole thing, if you did, thank you very so much for doing so. And as always, you can be sure we'll catch you on the next video.